Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Hope you're having a great start to your day. I just want to get on and talk about something that I see come up in so many relationships that have reached that burnout point, right? Or have gone into like toxic territory. And it's the fact that people will let things fester and build and resentment just grow inside of them without voicing them. Or they've tried voicing them in the past and were met with, various, negative responses. And so they stopped voicing their wants, needs, boundaries, whatever. And, the thing is that if you're going to stay and just allow for the resentment to build, then you might as well have left back when you realized that they weren't going to honor your needs, desires, boundaries, and whatnot, right? Because what the resentment does is, and that buildup inside of you, what that's doing to you is it's actually eroding your good health, right? So it erodes the relationship, but more importantly, it erodes you. It picks away at your energies and, takes away from some of the joy that you could be having. So it's really important. And if you're in a relationship where you're finding that resentment is building because you're not able to voice your wants, desires, boundaries, concerns, and all that, maybe working on your, and by your, I mean you and your spouse or you and your partner, working on communication skills. Because if you can't have conversations that are logical or wise-minded, then you're just going to keep going round and round and round. And how do we get to that point of being able to have logical or wise-minded conversations? Well, first of all, we need to be able to show up in a less triggered state ourselves, and they need to be able to show up in a less triggered state. So how you get there is going to be your own work that you do individually, and that's important. Like, that's the key piece, right? That's the foundation, because without that, you can learn all the communication skills you want, but if you're shouting them at the other person, or if the other person's not hearing them, even when you're talking calmly and clearly and, in wise-minded ways, if they can't participate in the conversation in the same spirit and in the same energy, then that's just going to lead to more resentment, right? So you just keep going round and round. And so you have to break that pattern. And you're listening, if you're listening to me, then you're the one who's the pattern breaker, right? You're hearing these words, and it's incumbent on you to do your part. You can't make the other person do their part. You can encourage them. You can ask them to. You can maybe show them some resources that maybe speak more to them. You can help them get help, but you can't do that work for them. So you can only do your work. And I think when you do that work, to be able to, sit with your own feelings, examine your triggers to figure out what's going on inside of you, and then do whatever necessary work you need to get to be able to go back and be in that wise mind state and energy. That's your work, right? And hopefully your partner would be willing to embark on that journey together, so that you're both doing your work, and then maybe you learn the skills of better communication together, because there's lots of resources around for that. And there's lots of ways to get that information. But again, that information is only good if you are able to utilize it in the most beneficial way. It's like if you put a hammer in my hands versus a hammer in a carpenter's hands, what we're going to produce are going to be two totally different things, right? Based on where we are and, you know, in knowledge and in capabilities. And so, like, I hope you get the metaphor, and maybe hammer wasn't a great one. But you know what I mean? Like, so put a sewing needle in my hands versus someone who's, you know, a seamstress and does, you know, all kinds of amazing creations. Maybe that's a better metaphor. So yeah, I could probably sew a couple stitches of things together, but it's not going to be as effective and long lasting if I don't already have some base knowledge about myself, and I won't be as effective until I've done some work to be able to get to the wise mind state of being in these situations. So I hope that helps. If you're wondering about wise mind and where that comes from, that actually comes from DBT skills therapy. It's one of the skills that you are encouraged to learn to kind of bring together, you know, the emotional mind, the logical mind, and kind of get to that place of wise mind thinking and acting and behaving. So it's really helpful to kind of have that framework of like, what's my intention? So yes, it's good to take a break and step back and maybe retreat for a little bit and have a cooling off period. But if in the cooling off period, you're just going through all of the arguments you want to make, and you're figuring out how to best say your biting remarks or whatever, then that's not helpful. Hey, thanks for joining me. Yeah, so to be able to retreat and actually do some work around it, like what's being triggered inside of me? How am I reacting to this? Could I see their point of view? Is there a middle ground? Is there a compromise? Is there a way that we can both get our needs met without compromising too much? And yeah, and then how can I have this conversation with my partner where they actually feel like I'm asking them for partnership, right? And teamwork and collaboration. So yeah, that's the kind of work that I'm talking about, and that's sort of getting to that wise mind state, right? And in order to do that, you need to be able to get calm and get introspective and find some balance and all that stuff, so that you can utilize not just the logical mind, but actually utilize the emotions. Like, why is this important to me, right? That's important, right? So we don't want to always just push down emotions and be logical. Like, we feel what we feel. Why is this important, right? Yeah. So I hope this helps, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining me.